Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Underwood. I work in community engagement at the Missouri Historical Society. On behalf of the Historical Society, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us for tonight's installment of STL History Live. And we appreciate you joining us virtually this evening. Safety is a top priority for us, so nearly all of our program is virtual at the moment, but I did want to let you know that the Missouri History Museum is open Wednesday through Sundays with several safety precautions in place, and we would love for you to visit if you feel safe doing so. Advanced reservations are required to visit all of the Missouri Historical Society locations, which includes the museum, as well as the Library and Research Center and Soldiers Memorial Military Museum. And you can visit mohistory.org to plan your visit and reserve your free tickets. Tonight's program, The Bridge, Women, Art, and Power, is presented in collaboration with Guided St. Louis. The Bridge is an annual panel discussion, and this year it is inspired by our newest exhibition, which just opened at the History Museum last Saturday, Beyond the Ballot, St. Louis and Suffrage, presented by Wells Fargo. If you turned in during the last 15 minutes or so, you'll notice, and it's still rolling now, we've had a slideshow that you've been looking at featuring pieces of art, some of which are by our panelists tonight, and others are by other local women artists who've been generous to contribute their pieces. So we want to thank all of the artists for contributing pieces to this display. I hope you have enjoyed looking at all of these really amazing pieces and the variety of expression that they represent. And tonight we're going to enjoy a moderated panel discussion with artists Andrea Hughes, Vanessa Charlo, Mijay, and Yvonne Osei. It'll be moderated by Jessica Barron, and you're going to hear more about each of them in just a few moments. But first, I do quickly need to mention a few details about how the program is going to run. It's going to be a roughly 40-minute panel discussion with about 15 minutes or so at the end for questions. If you have questions, you can submit those through the Q&A button that you'll find in your toolbar. And just please know that we're going to do our best to get as many questions as we can in the limited time that we have. Tonight's presentation is being recorded, so if you would like to go back at any point and rewatch it or share it out with friends and family, it will be posted to our Missouri Historical Society YouTube channel, and that should show up there early next week. Also, your feedback is really important to us. During the presentation, it may have already popped up, in fact, a Kobo Toolbox survey is going to show up in a tab in your browser. So keep an eye out for that. And we really thank you in advance if you'll take just a minute or two of your time to let us know what you think about the program. I know that some of you who are watching tonight are Missouri Historical Society members, and we really want to thank you for your support. We're so grateful for it. It keeps programs like this one running, and we're just so appreciative. If you're not a member, but you are interested in joining and would like to learn more about it, we would love to have you as part of our Missouri Historical Society family, and we've put a link to our website in the chat, so you can click on that and get more information. We also want to give a sincere thanks to everyone in the St. Louis City and County region for your tax contributions through the Zoo Museum Tax District. And with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to invite all of our panelists to join us, and I'm going to turn over the screen, I guess, to Jessica Barron, who is our moderator tonight. Jessica is a poet, curator, critic, and director of curatorial and program development at Beretta Projects. So Jessica, thank you so much for steering the helm this evening, and the screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Emily. And also thank you to Lindsay Newton and Elizabeth Tucker and all of the artists tonight who are participating. So I am merely here to serve as a vector for you to listen to these amazing St. Louis artists that we have tonight. So please give them all a virtual round of applause. We have Yvonne Osei, Vanessa Charlo, Mijay, and Andrea Hughes. And they will be going in that order, which is reverse chronological order by their first names. So yet another small nuance to remember, but I'm really thrilled to be here to just simply open up their studios to you and hopefully acquaint you with their work. So without further ado, we will start with Yvonne.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. I'm Yvonne Osei, and I am currently between Sync Studios. I'm commuting from St. Louis and Philadelphia. So I will be showing you some work via PowerPoint. So I'll just share my screen. Excellent. So I'm just going to be talking through these. So yeah, I'm a conceptual artist. A lot of the work that I do is cross-medium. So I dabble in performance, photography, painting, installation work. Most recently, I've been really excited about textiles and garment construction. And just basically because in my culture, the idea of wearing clothing is something that is extremely layered. There is clothing for wars, clothing for celebrations, clothing for naming ceremonies, and the list goes on and on. So I'm really excited about the power that lies in clothing, the garments that we wear, and the fact that clothing is something that we all share, we all use. It's such a personal sort of choice to make, but once you step out your door, it's a universal kind of understanding. A lot of my work addresses issues of beauty, complexion politics, colorism. Recently, I've been really looking at this idea of history and the power that lies in telling one's stories. The idea that history is can be commodified, and there's an importance in knowing one's history and being able to take ownership of that history and be able to write about your own history. So a lot of my work reflects on that as well. But I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really thankful to the Missouri History Museum for giving us the platform to discuss about women, art, and power. I'm looking forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. That was amazing. And I went to also direct all of the attendees tonight to the chat section, where I am not only reiterating the names of the artists, but also providing their website so you can spend some more time perusing their work. So the next artist we'll be talking to is Vanessa Charlot. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi. So let me share. Are you guys able to see that? Are you guys able to see that? Okay. So I'm having technical difficulties. I apologize about that. My name is Vanessa Charlot. I am a documentary photographer. I recently relocated to St. Louis from Miami, Florida. For the past couple of months, I have been actively documenting the protests that are happening here in St. Louis. And I have been intentional about sharing stories in St. Louis's Black community that humanizes the Black experience and create work that I hope to incite conversation. We're in a very tumultuous time right now, and I wanted to create, specifically right now, work that forces us to think and do a lot of introspective work, and hopefully encourages us to connect on a deeper level. So a lot of the images that you've seen on the slideshow that Missouri Historical Society has showed has a lot to do with the protests, and that's currently what I'm working on. and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Vanessa. You guys are all being so conscientious of your time. I was thinking, again, we'll get into it more when we have our discussion, but all of this is amazing. So thank you so much. So next we have Mijay, and Mijay, welcome. Please tell us about your practice.
Hi, I am from India, and my earliest interaction with art was with my grandmother, who used to tell us stories through all these clay puppets and rag dolls that she made for us. Well, I'm talking of a time in a society where money was scarce and every resource had to be used very, 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 very carefully. So I grew up wearing my older brother's dress because that's the cloth that came easy to me. And I always thought it was a new dress. So it's my whole idea of new and resource is, it's the most utilitarian understanding. And then when I studied history, of course, I was going back to archaeological excavations and the fragmented understanding of past. Again, you see the left remains of past and still trying to construct everything. So it all changed, or say it all constructed how I see resources and how I see my identity as a human being, as a woman from India, a mother, an artist. Kind of, it's complex, like my personal and political overlap and subject matters spill over on each other, and hence my materials as well. I'll just show you the latest piece I've been working as I'm obsessed about time. This is a piece. It's almost like a bust with heart that's ceasing not, I mean, it's just not stopping. And some of my works, again, all of these are reused materials, all repurposed resources that I have got from different parts of India, US, and this is my studio. So if you see baby toys around, consider it normal because you will see things around here. And that giant piece that you see there, the purple piece, that's actually a hand-woven 10 feet rug. Not rug, it's like an architectural form that I've been working on. And this is the piece I've been working on for a while now. Again, it is about time. It's about, and this is based in the culture where I come from, where everything is used very scarcely, like very sensibly. And then something is always stored for future. And now where we are using even the earth as something that we got to finish it today, and we are not thinking about our future, you can kind of bring in all those aspects of zero waste, ecofeminism to some extent into my practice.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mijay. That was amazing. It's great to see a glimpse of your space too. It's exciting. And as we're all in our tiny little bubbles right now. So, and then the final artist, last but not least, is Andrea Hughes. So Andrea, welcome. Please tell us about your practice.
Hi, I'm Andrea Hughes, and with my artwork, I try a little bit of everything. I worked in art most of all my life. I remember when I was younger going to the art museum here in St. Louis. My parents would just take us to a lot of different places. Going through the art museum, I saw a lot of beautiful artwork, but no one looked like me. And so I think it started a thirst in me to create beautiful pieces of art that reflected people that looked like me. And so I think that's what influenced my artwork. Another thing, I like putting things in my artwork. Over a span of time, I started off with just plain drawings with pencil and paper, then it graduated to colors, and then now whatever's available, I'll put it on the canvas just to give it a try to make sure it looks, you know, I can feel it by the time. I don't know when, sometimes I don't know when to stop, but when I fall in love with it, and then by the time I get sick of it, I think it's done. So I'm gonna walk around the gallery. I'm here at Zuka Arts Guild. We're located on 2701 North 14th Street in Old North St. Louis. So I'll take you around the gallery. Let's see if we can do this aimlessly. Okay. It worked. Okay, so here's some of my pieces, and you see what I mean when I say I like stuff. Okay. And I also really love old pictures. I kind of fancied up an old photograph that was in my grandmother's drawer, and I always love this picture. This is my mom and her brother back in the day. After church, my grandmother would take them to have their picture taken every Sunday. So they would have their Sunday best on. So of course, that's the name of the picture, Sunday Best. And I had a trip to India, which I learned how to do Mendi. I fell in love with the work of Mendi artists. And so I met a couple of friends that worked with me and helped me learn how to do all this kind of stuff. And I also use paper, collage, you know, I just like throwing things in there, and I love flowers. And I was inspired by a photo, an old photo I saw on Pinterest. And so I just had to paint it. It's not titled yet. Okay, this one, I won, let's see, second place at St. Louis Artists Guild with this one. And this is Queen of the Diaspora. So this is a combination of a lot of African tribes that I just happened to see, and my daughter took me to Africa, and so this is kind of a combination of a lot of tribes that I saw. I kind of took what I liked from each tribe and put it on one canvas. This is my homage to Josephine Baker, and we had an event here that was Harlem Renaissance, and so that was on display for that. And just a few more pictures that I just love. You know, I love pictures of women. This one, I really love her because with the history of this one is that women use the plate as an instrument of beauty. And back in the day when the slave trade was going on, women that have the plate in their lips would not get taken into slavery. So I really like that, and that's why that picture is special to me. So that is a view of some of my pictures. Okay, I think I lost you guys. Am I back yet? There we are.
That was perfect. That was perfect. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you.
No, that was amazing, all of you. I feel like, again, we could spend a lot more time with each of your work, and I'm thinking about, I mean, we're dealing with a binary gender tonight. That just happens to be the platform, given that giving the right to vote has to fall on these hard lines. But I will reflect on the fact that having organized a lot of poetry readings, men always go over their time. So I appreciate that all of you have actually stayed within your limits. Okay, so we're moving on to now the next section of the event tonight, which is just a couple guided questions. And I will also remind the guests again, please check out the comments section so you can really explore in greater depth all of these artists. This is all really amazing work, and is worth far more of your time. Additionally, if you have questions, like as Emily mentioned initially, there is a Q&A tab, and we'll hopefully get to everyone's questions, but please start, entering them there so that we can address them after this particular portion of the event tonight. And in the spirit of keeping all of this very structured, because this is this whole new world of virtual presentations, I am going to ask questions but direct them to specific artists initially, and then we can of course open it up because all of these I know you have really interesting answers to. But for initially, I'm going to start with Yvonne and Mijay. I'd love to hear how your work has evolved over the past year, but I think more pertinently over the last few months. Obviously, this has been an unprecedented moment that we're all navigating, and I can't imagine how this has been impacting everyone creatively. So we'll start with Yvonne.
Oh gosh, it's really hard not to think about COVID because it's everywhere and it's every day and every news flash, right? But and it's crazy too because I'm just casting my mind back to last year. How I was thinking, well, this year I'm gonna really celebrate my birthday. I'm gonna go. I celebrate my birthday on the 16th of August, and that's like a few weeks. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go with friends on a cruise, and that's out of the window, right? So, but more on a more serious level, it's this idea of abnormal has become the new norm, you know, and as much as it's daunting, as much as it could even be fearful, right? There is a level of criticality that also allows an artist. This idea of thinking anew, thinking differently about the systems that have been. And for me, that has been, in a way, challenging in a good way. A lot of my work, I was saying earlier that my work has kind of taken on this clothing aspect of it, that I'm trying to kind of dissect how clothing can be more critical or can stand for some sort of a social political consciousness as we wear the colors that you know we put on our bodies. But I'm also thinking about I used to do this, and I still this body of work that I started in 2015, where I was clothing and unclothing nude sculptures. So I would find a nude sculpture in public space, a nude female sculpture, and approach her and clothe her, and then after a couple of hours, I would unclothe her. But most recently, with the new sculpture that I clothed in Washington, D.C., I actually made a mask for her. And that was the only article of clothing that I left on her as a signifier to raise awareness of you know, wearing your mask to protect the community. And so that is being teased into my work in ways that I'm not even, you know, aware of, because you know, you have to put on a mask when you go into public. That's a necessity now. That has become a clothing of necessity. And so yeah, it's there. We have to grapple with that.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I mean, it is weird how an aspect of coping with this moment actually isn't a garment, you know, which is the mask, and what does that mean? And but that's great. And I'm going to shift it over to Mijay now.
I don't know. My husband says, yeah, I have actually been preparing for this COVID shutdown for all my life, because I kind of housebug. I'm kind of housebug. I stay home and I like it. But of course, things have been more difficult in the sense that for last few years, I have been doing this everyday project. So I would do one art piece about that day every day. And with the shutdown, I have nothing new to draw every day. So I'm doing a portrait of my husband every day since we completed 10th year. And I realized it is time I rebound my head on our relationship. And some of my earlier performances, photo performance or video performance, have been about relationships, two people living together. And this is really, really challenging because he's dull, depressed, sad every day. So I have to pick up a new medium, a new form, a new material to picturize him. But besides that, of course, everybody's home and everything is slow. that's why this piece that you can see up, the pendulum hanging, I have become far more introspective because everybody's around. I can't really do much of my sculptural pieces that I was doing. I have gone on to weaving, like crocheting, and I do it with my hand. And my husband says, every time I tell you, what are you doing next? You go and start weaving that mat. I'm like, it's not a mat. It's just something that gives me a feeling that I am doing something. The time is moving forward. However, it doesn't seem like. So time has become the theme of my life right now. And I'm trying to catch up with every second and how this micro elements or the micro units make months and years and eventually decades. And then I have always been fascinated about history and future. Now I'm concentrating on present. And initially it seemed like a struggle because I had a full fifth gear life for past 2 years being a student artist, community artist, and mother. All of a sudden I am just home. No community art. I'm not meeting more people. So it has just been a new phase of my life where I am slowing down even more. I'm being very, very contemplative, and I'm actually creating very, very large scale soft architectural forms. So this is something that I'm looking forward to whenever it will be complete. My husband says, this is your lifetime project. So perhaps this is, I'm not sure, but I am really enjoying those soft sculptures that I'm making, again, out of discarded fabrics and a lot of other stuff that I'm doing, but I'm not sure how will it turn out.
I love that. I mean, I love thinking about the fact that this is slowing down time and then forcing this sort of reflection on a more close inspection of process and what does it mean, or the process of even looking at your partner's face. So
also
really
how insignificant each day seems, but over the years, how do you start finding meaning to it? And I'm literally forcing myself down to look at every seemingly insignificant unit, whether time, day, life, emotion, material, everything. So it's interesting for me. I think it is gonna lead me somewhere more interesting than COVID.
Oh, I think that's great. I think that's hopefully what we're all aspiring to too, is how to make this moment both particular, but then also some sort of extension of whatever continuity we're participating in our practice or our lives. But thank you. Okay, so I am now moving to our next question, which is also a really tough, these are huge questions. So thank you all for being, bearing with these. Aside from obviously the coronavirus, we're amidst what has been even reported as the largest civil rights movement, even larger potentially than what occurred mid-century. So I really think the idea of what does power mean and how is it reflected in art, and what is the relationship between art and power is really salient. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, Vanessa and Andrea. We'll start with Vanessa.
So my work requires me to go out into the streets. And it has been deeply emotional for me. There isn't a real separation between my lens and the subjects, because it's almost as if they are an extension of me. And so when it comes to the concept of power in art, I do think that as a photographer, specifically as a Black photographer, what's happening in the country has made me a lot more intentional about how I photograph communities of color, and what kind of images do I put out for the media to consume. And it has also been amazing to be able to have a say-so in how the narrative is being told and have some kind of control of that narrative, right? Oftentimes, the way that Blackness is policed and also described in mainstream society can be both debilitating, but also stigmatizing, right? When you hear when you hear statements about protesters, often it does not take on, or it does not talk about the multifaceted aspect of this protester. So think about it. What would make a single mom go out into the street, right? And so all you see is protester, but you do not see mother, daughter, sister, all these things. You do not take into account that she may be the mother of a Black boy, that she may feel like she has to go and defend his life or defend the sanctity of life. And my camera has become my artistic weapon of choice when it comes to telling those stories and telling it in a way that is as close to being authentic as possible, right? We all have our biases or the manner in which we perceive things. But especially during this time, to be able to photograph the beauty, the pain, and also the resilience of communities of color, and also our allies and LGBTQ folks that come out and fight and protest and raise their voices alongside communities of color and Black people. It has completely altered my way of producing or making photographs, because it forced me to be a lot more conscientious as to how I'm telling these stories, and is it how the subject wants to be represented? Yeah.
No, it's a really important question, and the sensitivity with which you're investigating it is part of the problematics of power right now, which is simply how have cultures been imaged? We've seen a lot of that even here in the St. Louis community, obviously. So I appreciate the way in which you're dealing with this in such a sensitive and also introspective way. Thank you. And Andrea.
Okay. During these times, it gave me a time to kind of go into myself and see what I'm about, what I'm made of, and help me to just branch out and really take the skills that I have and put it on canvas. And luckily for me, I live in a really artsy neighborhood, and with my artistic skills, I'm able to put positive messages on doors in the Old North neighborhood. So this was a brainchild of Paulette Sankofa, who lives in the area also as the gallery. And so it was a great idea to get out in the streets and put positive messages on the doors for people to see in the area. And that was one way of making change in our neighborhood. Another thing, I'm thinking that this is a really good time when people are at home. This pandemic forced us to be at home and to stop and really see what's happening out here. It's like things never stay the same, and things that I've known that happen, that I see happen every day, everyone else get a chance to see it also and be repulsed by it, just like I have been all of my life. And people are like, wow, wow, this is really happening. This isn't just something that someone said and have it brushed over and forgotten the next day because you have to work and you have other things in your own life. So I think this is a really good time for people to, look within themselves and take pride in themselves, saying, I can't stand for this, I can't stand to see this happen to someone else. And people are like, I can't stand, I'm not going to take it anymore. Mm-hmm. And time to do something about it. So I think it's a good time. Things happen in our life to make changes. Nothing ever stays the same. So now this is our change, and we have no choice but to roll with it, because trying to fight it, it'll be futile. So I'm happy to be an artist, to be able to express that. It was a really good time for me, because instead of running back and forth, going to school, going to work, taking children here and there, I'm able to sit back, do my artwork, and just express myself in that way. Come into the streets, put positive messages on doors and things like that. I'm just rolling with the times.
Yeah.
Because I have no choice. I'm just rolling with the time.
Well, you're pointing out a really interesting way in which the situation, which obviously is, you know, afflicting people and disempowering people in terms of health, but also inverting a lot of power dynamics in terms of who actually has free time to be observing culture. I mean, I mean, that's a fascinating way of thinking about how this is providing the power of observance and to people who are frequently obviously too busy to be able to be taking note or taking action. But I would love, Andre, for you to describe a little bit more your door project. I realized that when we did your tour, we were just looking at discrete artworks, and maybe not everyone is familiar with what you're describing.
Okay. This was a program that was started in Old North by Paulette Sankofa, and it's an organization called Peace Weaving Wellness. And so it was an idea to paint the doors, put positive messages on it in the Old North neighborhood. Now we're starting to expand because everybody likes that. So it was a couple of artists from the neighborhood and one outside the neighborhood, Al Greer and Luisa Otero Prada, which you saw some of her artwork. And so we did, oh gosh, I think about maybe 20 doors, maybe even more, but we're still doing them. So the number's still rising. And we're doing back doors in Old North. And so hopefully this year we'll get a chance to do, a housing tour, and part of the artwork will be on tour. So that's just some of my doors right there. And when you come, you'll see more. And so we're really excited about it.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for the person behind the scenes making the technical things occur. And that was magical. That's awesome. So just moving on to, I mean, these are also really, like I said, large questions, but I'm going to open this up more to the group for the last few minutes before we go to then general Q&A. But first of all, again, qualifying this as again, Vanessa, you were pointing out again, the advocacy for LGBTQ artists, like the idea of us being assembled here as female artists is obviously a self-identified category. And but at the same time, it's also what permitted us legally to vote. So we deal in a system that forces us to participate in the binary, but then also I think just as larger citizens, we're in a moment where we're really thinking about the larger scope of what gender and identity embraces. But what does it then mean to be a female artist right now? How does it maybe intersect again with this idea of existing in a stay-at-home moment, being potentially a mother or caregiver, potentially actually having more time for the first time to actually reflect on your community, or what does it even mean right now for activists, which, you know, the movement is incredibly, and even as we saw with the recent election, being here in St. Louis, really being led by incredibly dynamic female activists and leaders and thinkers. So anyone who wishes to raise a virtual hand to go first. Oh, right, Vanessa, unmute yourself.
So essentially your question is, what does it mean to be a female artist during this time?
Yeah.
I think that since the beginning of time, women have always had to carry multiple hats, right? Like we had to be everything to everyone, and sometimes not enough to ourselves. And so right now, I think that, and I agree with Andrea, it's an amazing time to be an artist, but I also think that it's an even more empowering time to be a female artist, because you see so many women that are leading the proverbial fight, or just leading the movement. And so to see their strength and to see their resilience, and to feel comfortable in trying to reimagine what it means to operate free of a patriarchal gaze, right? Where you can, you can be fluid in your femininity or expression of masculinity while still being female, whatever that may mean for, you. I think that because the times are shifting, I think that women are reclaiming the autonomy of our bodies. And as an artist, because your job is to express your perception of the world, as a female artist, I think that personally, I feel more free to do that. I feel more free to go out into certain spaces, and documentary photography actually is predominantly white and male. So now I feel completely confident in my ability to go out there and to produce photographs that has the ability to be seen by multiple eyes. And because that's another thing too, right? A lot of time female artists, we create these amazing bodies of work, but because of how the institutions are set up, we don't get the kind of exposure, or not a lot of people know about the amazing work that we're doing. And some of us have internalized that. And so just to feel empowered to not only create the art, but also have an expectation that what I'm creating is as important and should be, shared.
Yeah, it's excellent. Other contributions?
Yeah.
Yvonne?
So I think that it's interesting that we're actually hosting this event today, because today marks the day where it was put in law for all people of color to actually vote.
It's true.
And when I was thinking about the question of, what it means to be female, it's interesting because I don't necessarily compartmentalize my identity. I am a Guinean woman. I am an immigrant. I am short. I have kinky hair. It's all of me. It's hard to. I know society does that, right? And like you were saying, that's what got us the ability to vote. But I think that it's hard to think of yourself in those boxes when you're actually operating in the world. And I also find it interesting that even though it's in that knowing that you're female, that also gives you the strength to operate, is that you become this signifier of all those things, and being aware of who you are gives you that empowerment almost to do the work that you do. And to be that signifier when you're operating in the world, in your art making. And so a lot of times I capitalize on that archetype of what a Black female woman is in the narratives that I build in my work. And so I find that really interesting, because I cast my mind back to 100 years ago. I wouldn't be celebrating, right? I'll be happy that women can vote, but it's a type of woman that can vote. And I think that a lot of times that's not brought on the forefront. But there is some power in knowing that someone has attained freedom. And I think that what we're reading about Beyond the Ballot, which I'm yet to see and I'm excited to see, and everyone should see it, is that it doesn't only focus on the success that women could vote, but it shows you the narrative of what women actually did, the fight that they had to go through to attain what they did. And I think that that's what, you know, the Black Lives Movement is about. We're in this sort of moment where we're actively seeing women at the forefront of gaining, you know, respect, of gaining dignity, of having their voices heard. And it's a remarkable time.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, Mijay.
Just joining ahead of, like joining behind Yvonne, that of course being a woman at this point for me was not that a big thing because we are all women, but a woman from a certain economic, social, patriarchal background is what's defining my practice, my vision at materials and subjects and issues. And what we are picking up as women raised in a certain time and space is very important at this point. Like last year I did this performance where I was just writing my baby on sheets of paper, like regular A4 size sheet of paper with red paint. And that idea is full of love, care, panic. It's an intense emotion that you cannot, that is hard for some of the mothers even to express, if especially with the DACA thing going on where minors are being separated from parents. And how do you say that pain? There are certain things. I mean, I guess I became a visual artist because words are hard to come. They kind of, they always ditch me. When I need that perfect word, I'll never be able to get that. And bringing out those words and visuals that talk of the larger humanity, besides just being a woman, it is about the larger future. It is about all the people of this earth. And I think as a woman artist, because I can feel those emotions down there somewhere so deep that I can express it in a way where I can connect to all the people beyond gender, beyond a socio-cultural, political, or like upbringing or approach or connections. And I think this is an important time where women artists are coming out to express, to voice their opinions, their emotions. And for me, I personally feel I'm not just talking for myself, I'm talking for mothers who came before me. All the women or the feminine or the people. See, I mean, I am not feminine. Like, I think more about all the people who came before me or who are here with me. And as a woman, as an artist, I think this is my duty to express what many people, like my mother, she could never express things. So many things. She wanted to word it out, but she could never put it in word because of the limitations in a patriarchal society. But I am doing that. And I'm sure she would be feeling happy about it, that at last somebody is speaking, but I'm sure it must be freaking her out because I am speaking and I'm putting myself out in front for, you know, I'm like the target.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that because I think my art is my power and I'm coming out with that.
No, thank you. I think, again, speaking to that idea of like, what does generational feminism mean? I mean, we're all carrying that with us too. And and let alone the kind of assorted cultural achievements that each of us have to overcome in order to kind of inhabit whatever version of femininity that we're operating in. And again, these are all such good answers. I am merely trying to move us forward, which is now to the Q&A from some of the attendees. I'm going to just, there are several great questions out there. So here's a question directly for Vanessa. As a photographer who is trying to tell the true narrative from the perspective of someone who is living it, Do you have terms in your photo licenses on what your photos can be used for and how it can be shown so that your images or subjects will not be misrepresented or objectified?
So that goes into the business of photography and licensing. Not every photograph that I take is for public consumption. And it's because I think that sometimes there are certain images that are taken that are extremely raw. And I think that it's important to respect the privacy of that person. So whatever is licensed and imaged, whenever an image is licensed, it's by my, I agree to it. And so a lot of the work that you may see out of me in public or major, publications is work that tells a specific story that I want to be told. So there's an image that has made its way around, which is a Black woman sitting on the hood of a car with the American flag upside down and a mask, right? And I specifically wanted that image to be shared because it speaks to the idea that communities of color are fighting two wars in their very own country, right? We're having to deal with coronavirus, which is really affecting, sorry, which is really disproportionately affecting our communities. And we're having to deal with police brutality and police violence and things like that. And so whatever is shared are images that I want to share. Unless someone just takes it off of, like my social media or something, and that's a different.
Yeah, well, that's the other part of the world we're living in, is images live their own lives at this point. But thank you so much for that. And so we have a question also for you, Yvonne. Your work seems to challenge or ask a question to its viewers, whether about skin color, being a woman, or history. What are you working on now, and what, if anything, will you be asking your audience to reflect on?
Yeah, so currently I'm working on a body of work that is really looking at St. Louis, looking at St. Louis's promise, its legacy, its history, really dissecting the city. I started working on it in 2019. It was my 10th year of living in St. Louis. But this body of work is looking at a series of textiles and garment construction. The background behind me is one of those textiles. And it's really looking at the idea of collective remembrance. How do we remember spaces? What spaces are funded by the government and what spaces are not? What spaces are treasured and what spaces are not? And just looking at the neighborhoods in St. Louis and asking us to rethink these spaces, these histories, the people that live in the neighborhoods. And then I'll just go ahead and then share just maybe one of the textiles and maybe dissect it a little bit more.
There's a kind of related question for you too, Yvonne, that is just thinking about the way COVID might have affected the way you're wearing clothing and expressing your current mood. So it's just blended in. There are two related questions, so I'm merging them. Okay.
Super. Yeah, so this particular textile is called the Eye of the Witness. And here's a detailed shot of it, of me visiting the site in 2014, where Mike Brown had gone to the QT, and you're looking at the charred QT behind me, and I'm using that in my textiles and trying to form this sort of language around the photo that I have taken and how I'm arranging it in the textiles. And so it's really about what has happened on the ground in St. Louis, and also kind of opening it up to address other social political issues. I have a textile that is looking at Pruitt-Igoe, the site of Pruitt-Igoe, and it's just basically the stages of its dilapidation, or a dilapidated Pruitt-Igoe morphed with a photo I took of some Caucasian boys casually jogging in Forest Park, and juxtaposing those two images together. And I've been really thinking about textiles. I was saying that in my culture, it's so meaningful how we wear clothing, right? And so I want to layer that sort of meaning to this in a way that when people are wearing my textiles, they have to think about the iconography of it and kind of introduce it in the events that they're going to. I wouldn't expect someone to pick a Pruitt-Igoe textiles that is really showing the sort of blast of you know, that project, and wear it to a birthday party or a cocktail party, right? That I want there to be some sort of reverence to the textiles and the garments that I am creating. Right here is also one of the garments that I've been working on, and I don't know if you guys can see it, but here I'm kind of combining historical images with images that I have taken. And there's some images like the ones here where I took at Cherokee Street. There was one afternoon I was walking and I saw this boy playing with a toy gun. And it took me straight to Tamir Rice, because it was that toy gun that led to his death. And it was almost like the innocence of children of color they're not even allowed that innocence, that playful innocence anymore. And it's these things that I'm thinking about when I am lacing my textiles with meaning. And so what I'm really hoping that, what I'm charging maybe the community to do is to reconsider spaces, reconsider histories. How do we collectively remember these places? How are we memorializing, or how are we monumentalizing these experiences? And then what was the second question? What am I wearing now? You know, I never used to put on a lot of black, but it seems like this COVID season, I've seen myself wear a lot of black, you know, all black, black earrings, black shirt. I'm a very colorful person. I love to embrace color, but in my culture in Ghana, wearing black is, in a way, it's almost like you're in mourning, or there's a deafening. Not that I'm intentionally putting on black, but for some reason I have come to embrace a lot of black nowadays, which is really, really odd. But yeah.
Thank you, Yvonne. And we're going to just go to one last question, and this is for Mijay before, oddly, this has gone by so fast. So Mijay, since much of your work is representative of time and giving new purpose to items and therefore time by repurposing them, do you ever consider the duration or lapse of time in your work, the idea of fast or slow? How do you capture that?
Interestingly, I resort to different materials when there's a surge of emotion that, of course, I cannot express in word, and I'm just running crazy in home. And then all of a sudden I'll grab the largest piece of paper or fabric or canvas, if there is any left by my son. I just pour color on it and I paint. So I resort to different mediums, like weaving is one of the most meditative act that I do. I mean, hand weaving, not the crocheting and that sort of thing. It's hand weaving. So I'm just weaving right now. I'm doing two things right now. I'm doing a small scale mirror paintings, and I'm painting on mirrors. So there are like 20 done in 1 hour or something like that. And then I'm hand weaving a piece which is 30 feet. It's like a rhombus trapezium, to say it is 34 feet by 75 feet and 10 feet high. So I'm just weaving it, and it has been since last Open Studio when I began working. So last October till here, I'm just doing it. So I'm kind of switching from fast to slow to more expressive to more dormant kind of expressions that I experience. Everything is all about experience that I experience, and I need to take it out and I express it through my different artworks. And yes, this switching happens automatically. I don't do it very consciously. It's like the divine automation mode I go on, and then it just happens.
Excellent.
Thank you for that question. It just made me relook at my fast and slow kind of switching in action and in thinking, emotion, everything.
Yes, and I, again, thank you all of you for your incredible responses. I wish, again, we could be doing this in person, and it's just such a pleasure to be able to share your work with everyone. So I believe that we will soon be switched over to a slide presentation, but again, thank you, Yvonne, thank you, Mijay, thank you, Andrea, thank you, Vanessa. This was just amazing. You guys are doing such important and beautiful work, so thank you.
Thank you to all of you. I could have listened for another 2 hours to hearing all of you talk. Somebody made a very nice comment in the Q&A that it felt like a gathering of girlfriends that she was missing in her life these days. And I would echo that. It was a really wonderful experience to listen to all of you. I'm going to quickly share a final slide here while I make a couple of closing comments. Just make sure it'll go big. There we go. So yeah, thank you again. Thank you, Jessica, for moderating a really fantastic conversation, and to Yvonne and me and Andrea and Vanessa. Really appreciate you taking the time tonight to share your work and your insight and your personal experiences and some thoughtful conversation. And thank you, of course, to all of you for tuning in this evening. Really appreciate you being here as well. There are 2 to 3 History Live programs every week. You can find a few of them coming up listed here on your screen. And if you want to see the whole lineup, you can find that at mohistory.org. Or you can also visit the Missouri History Museum Facebook page and look under the events listing there to find all of our virtual programming. And that's all we have tonight. So thank you again, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care.